One of the du'as that the Prophet ﷺ was asked to make this dua, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا, that say, "Oh my Lord, increase me in knowledge." So always in the quest of learning more, it is a sign that a person wants to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, so Ramadan is just upon us, inshallah, in a few days. Next week at this time, we'll all be fasting. It will be our second day of fasting, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, we had many sessions, especially for our khutbahs. We have been talking about Ramadan and the preparation of Ramadan from a very particular aspect, which was the spiritual aspect of Ramadan. We will touch base a little bit on that, and then we'll move on to the practical aspect of Ramadan, right? So the practical aspect of Ramadan is like the engine in a car, and the spiritual aspect is like having gas to have that engine run. You have the engine, but you don't have gas in the car, it won't run. You have gas, but the engine is broken down, then the car will run. So you have to have both. You might be able to just get by fulfilling the prerequisites for Ramadan and just, passing marks, but you didn't attain anything spiritual. That's also a big loss. But if you are also spiritually very uplifted, but you're not doing it right, then it's going to be wasted as well. So it is very important to do anything. Whenever we do anything, we do it with knowledge, we do it with good intention, and we do it knowing why is it that we're doing it. Okay, so what are we going to cover, inshallah, in this session? So what to expect in this class? As you can see, the benefits of fasting, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. The objectives of fasting, why do we fast? And that's more of a introductory level, inshallah. And then we will talk about all about Ramadan, all about the rulings of Ramadan that will include conditions, essentials, things that break the fast. So we're going to be talking about all the rulings, and then inshallah in the end we'll have a Q&A. Okay, so let's get right to it. The benefits of fasting. One of the benefits, it's not all, it's some of them. The benefit of fasting is showing sympathy. To whom? To the people who are less fortunate than you, to the needy people. By your voluntarily taking on this journey of staying away from food and drink, that a person will realize that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with so many things in your life, right? And to understand how other people who are deprived from what basics, of life, what it feels like. What is it like? What is it like to go out without food, without one meal, right? Although we know that we had a good suhoor, and then we have a good iftar after that waiting for us, right? Towards the end of the day, a lot of people don't even have that luxury. They don't even know what is their next meal. So to feel that sympathy to other people, feeling that humbleness in yourself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you. Also, many people would give their zakat while they're fasting, right? While fasting, you're gonna go out and now not just think about other people and feel that mashallah, Allah has blessed me with so much, and there are so many people who are much less and lower than me in terms of food and drink. Now I want to also go and support them and help them. So zakat, that's why a lot of people, they give their zakat during the month of Ramadan. Number two, it is a struggle. It is jihad, right? Jihad, it means struggle. Sometimes jihad is to pick up arms and go against the enemy. That's the jihad of the sword or the weapons, right? In modern world. But there is also a jihad of the nafs, of the lower self. In fasting at Ramadan, they describe the same. If you look at the year that fasting became fard, the first battle happened in, a lot of you know the answer. Which year? Which battle happened in Ramadan?
Badr.
Battle of Badr. So it happened almost in the same year, both things. So there was a struggle on one end, was a physical struggle. Now there is this other struggle, which is an inward struggle for people, especially for those people who are not used to fasting. And number three, which is a more spiritual aspect of the fasting, is taqwa. Taqwa, to summarize all moral, spiritual gifts of Ramadan, right? We can see that in Ramadan, you abstain from not just from food and drink, but also all the other things that are impermissible, right? And beyond, right? We try to also preserve our time, our energy that we put into so many things. In Ramadan, we try to reduce that and do more acts of worship. So we gain piety and taqwa and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Akbar. So taqwa is the overall result of Islamic life. It is the highest virtue in Islam. It means God consciousness, piety, fear, and awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when you are fasting, you are aware that God is seeing me, He's watching me. And it can be nobody around me, nobody could see me, and I could go and eat and drink and not fast, right? But a person does that only for the sake of Allah. And that's why if you look at fasting, it's very hidden. All the other acts of worship, they are apparent. You go for Hajj, people can see you going for Hajj. They know you're going for Hajj. You're traveling. You're going, putting ihram on and all that. You pray in front of people sometimes, or sometimes, most of the times for the faraid. Zakat, somewhat, someone kind of in the middle knows, or at least the person who's receiving it knows that you are giving the zakat. But fasting is something is only between you and God. And therefore, the reward of fasting, you would not find it in the Quran and Sunnah. Like for Salah, there's all the ahadith that say this is the virtue, this is what you're going to get, this is what you're going to get for praying this, praying that particular Salat at that time, and so on and so forth. For Hajj, there's all these ahadith. For Zakat, right? But when it comes to fasting, the reward is what? If the act itself is a little non-visible, it's kind of in the unseen, the reward of that invisible thing, act of worship, is also invisible, which in our creed terms we call it ghaib, and that's first and foremost is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? We cannot see Allah. Allah is in the unseen. That's what is the first thing that we believe. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. What is after that? لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Those, it's a guide for the people of taqwa, of piety, taqwa, for those who believe in the unseen. So the fasting is also hidden. It's kind of in the unseen from the eyes of other people, and therefore the reward of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I will be the reward of fasting, and Allah is in the ghaib, in the unseen. So that's the ultimate outcome of fasting, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. So that last part is the outcome of fasting, of what is the objective of fasting, right? And it also, if we look at it from a different angle, we can see that, we also understand that this verse is indicating to the ruling of fasting. that, oh, you who believe, what is it? Kutiba, it was prescribed to you. Kutiba, it is, the fasting is prescribed to you, just like it was prescribed to the people who came before you. So this prescription of fasting, of siyam, it's indicating that it's mandatory, right? So that's how we get the ruling. And the end of the ayah, Allah indicates to the purpose and objective of fasting. Fasting is not just staying away from food and drink, right? Because so many people can do that. A lot of people do it today, for other purposes, to kutiba alaykum siyam, I'm fasting because, I want to lose weight. So it's not la'allakum tattaqun, it's for something else. So the main objective is that. Those things, they come as a bonus, right? As the Prophet ﷺ also said, sumu tasihhu, that fast and get healthier. You have your hand up for a while. Go ahead. Oh, okay. When you remember, you can always come back there. So fasting in the month of Ramadan, it is an obligatory act of worship upon every Muslim, male or female, who is sane and who is in a decent health situation. This ruling will also apply to making up any other fasting that was not done in the previous Ramadan. The ruling of this verse will also apply to that. So someone did not fast last month and he was obligated to fast, then the makeup of that fast would also be necessary. Okay, so that's the ruling part. And now let's look at from a how to define what is the Islamic fasting. In other words, what is the definition from the Islamic law? Is it just not eating and drinking? Because right now none of us are eating and drinking. Are we fasting from the Islamic definition? No, because these things will define what is fasting in Islam. So fasting is to abstain during the day from the break of dawn until sunset from eating, drinking, and sexual gratification with intention. This whole thing, it is the definition of fasting. So you stay away from three things from the break of dawn until sunset with intention. That defines what fasting is. That's siyam. Otherwise, Saum, from a linguistic perspective, it means imsak. What it means? What is imsak? Imsak, it means to hold back. That's the linguistic meaning of the word saum. And that applies to anything and everything, every fasting. Like fasting for 1 hour. Here my iftar comes. Oh, wow. MashaAllah. Brought it for me? I was just joking. So it has to be according to this definition. So 1 hour fasting is not siyam, it's imsak, which is the linguistic meaning of saum, right? So it has a fall. So let's look at A, refraining from engaging in sexual activity, refraining from eating anything, entering anything in the body cavity, right? Anything that goes down to the stomach, that will break the fast. So preventing anything from going down to the body cavity would also apply. So whether deliberately or accidentally, right? From the time of sunrise until sunset, and it has to be accompanied with intention, and from individuals who are permitted to fast, those who are permitted to fast. So we will take maybe some of them and go into the details of what does that actually mean.
Quick clarification, if you don't mind, go back to the other slide, please. In reference to B, entering anything from the body cavity, which I'm assuming it is stomach.
Yes.
What if somebody takes an
IV, all of that is coming.
Okay.
And that's why I was gonna, IV, anything that you enter the body with injection, IV, any of those things, it does not break the fast. We will cover that, inshallah. I'm gonna break it down, inshallah.
Take a nourishment through it.
Even if it's for nourishment. If it's maybe I'm jumping the gun, but but it's okay. If someone is taking it for nourishment, then if the case is that this person is really sick and he, is struggling, then scholars say that it might be permissible and it'll be okay. Fasting would not be invalidated in both cases. But if someone is healthy and still wants to, because he needs to go to the gym and spend 2 hours there, he's going to take, pump himself up, that will be disliked, because the whole objective of fasting is to feel that fasting, right? So now we're going to look at some of the things that will elaborate the definition of fasting as we went down to the chart. So the conditions that are rendered obligatory. When we would say that someone is obligated to fast, and when we would say someone doesn't have to fast because he is lacking one of these conditions. Okay, so there's a difference that when does it become, who's obligated. So there are little definitions or terms, inshallah, hopefully that will clarify. So let's say Islam is one of the conditions. Someone who's not Muslim, is he obligated to pray? No. Let's say someone was not Muslim last Ramadan, this Ramadan is Muslim. Is he up, as we said, that the person has to make up the previous Ramadan if he or she did not fast? Would this new Muslim now have to make up the previous Ramadan and the previous Ramadans before? No, because they were not commanded. The command is only for someone who's Muslim. If someone accepted Islam on the 15th of Ramadan, the 14 days of Ramadan, he does not have to make up those days, because he was not, right? It was not obligatory upon him to fast. Number two, sanity. A person who is mentally not stable and cannot differentiate, and he kind of, a mental health profession would say that this person would not be obligated to fast because he's not stable, then that person is not required to fast. If he gets better next year, then he starts fasting. He does not have to make up for the previous year. Maturity, right? Who is 10 and under? How old are you? No, you
12.
No, this one, the one right behind us, who I cannot see. 7. So, what's your name? What's your name? Ibrahim. Ibrahim, you're not required to fast.
What's my name?
There you go, mashallah. So if you have not reached the age of puberty, then you are not required to fast. Age doesn't matter. Some people become of the age at 12, some become of the age at 15, and 15 would be the max, okay? After 15, it doesn't matter. And to have knowledge. Someone was in the wilderness, he never or she never had a chance to get to know about fasting, although believed in God or was a Muslim. So that person would not be required to fast. Okay. Now these are conditions that, after being obligated to fast, it would allow it to be performed and accepted. So the conditions that obligate one to fast is called shurutul ada. That, let's say, let's look at the 4 of them. The conditions that make it obligatory to fast the month of Ramadan are to be free from ill health. So let's say I am sick. Initially, because I fulfilled the 4 conditions, I'm above 15, just for your information. So I'm obligated to fast, right? But I fall sick on the first day of Ramadan. At this point, I'm not obligated to fast that day. However, I am obligated. It's kind of like a credit or a debt on me to make up if I don't fast that day. If someone is sick, can fast, right? But not obligated to fast at that moment. So that's the difference between both conditions. So someone who's sick has to make it up later on. Okay. Number 2, postnatal bleeding. At that in that situation, a female cannot fast, right? Menstrual bleeding, both of those conditions, and to be a resident. Someone who's traveling, initially he or she is obligated to fast, however, not obligated to fast on that particular day. You get the difference between both of them? Like, would this be okay for someone to fast as if not a Muslim? Yeah, of course, but it's not going to be considered fasting because not a Muslim. They're not obligated to fast. However, if a sick person wants to fast or a traveler wants to fast, can fast, right? Now, the second and third, it is something for the sisters. The fasting will not be valid. You'll have to wait until next month after Ramadan to make up those days. Okay, if someone wants to fast in those two conditions, in the second and third one, it will not be valid. However, if someone wants to fast while they're ill or while they're traveling, it will be accepted. So that's the difference between these four. That the first and four, you can fast, and the second and third, you cannot. Yes.
So how about sometimes because of the dryness, kids, especially they have a nasal bleeding? So how about that kind of thing?
It does not break the fast. And that's also coming, inshallah. All right.
Can I have a clarification? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Back to the number 2 and number 3. Sometimes it exceeds beyond the normal period. So do we do, and that means sometimes they miss out the entire month of Ramadan. But are there any ruling on the period itself?
So for that, I will not go into the detail, but I would say, to answer your question, whatever days that will be counted towards their period, that day they will not fast, and there's a cap for it, 10 days.
I see.
It cannot be more than 10 days. So anything more than 10 days will not be counted. And it gets a little complicated because every person is different. Every individual has their own, cycle, their own, time when it starts and ends. And sometimes it really gets complicated. So I would suggest for sisters, if they have any particular question regarding menses and period, you can ask my wife. She has very extensive knowledge of this particular subject, inshallah. And I'm sure she did it for the 8th graders, right? So, yeah. But any day that will count as their period, then they will not fast. Other than that, they will fast, even if it's still bleeding, because that will not be counted as hayd in that term. And in the fiqh term is called istihada. Istihada has a different ruling. Hayd has a different ruling.
Slight variation from the subject. Could that be also applied for Hajj and Umrah?
For Hajj and Umrah, yes. For Hajj and Umrah, for Salah, for fasting, all apply. Hajj and Umrah, it will only apply going into the Haram.
Right.
Other than that, they will be able to do Arafat and Muzdalifah and all of that. It's only the masjid because they cannot hold the Quran recitation. It has its own, complication of it as well. They cannot enter the masjid and they cannot pray. So those 3 things are the major parts where they do not participate. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
On number 4, if you're traveling east or west, the time difference.
If you're traveling east, you continue until you reach west. Just kidding. The time traveling, what do you mean by that? The time difference?
Like if you're traveling
Like, let's say if you're going to Emirates, right?
yes, okay.
If you're going to like Abu Dhabi, the time will come
Time
really
difference,
fast.
6 hours.
So the timing will start where you are, where you're flying over. So a lot of the apps actually help you out, but wherever you are flying over, whether it's 35,000 feet above, you will go according to the local time,
Okay.
not the time of your origin, not the time of your destination, because that will be,
You're fasting 5-6 hours.
yeah, it's really like 4 or 5 hours you'll only be fasting for the most part. Yes, Ibrahim.
What if you're like a little ill? Is it still obligatory to avoid fast?
Yes, so illness has its let's see if we're gonna explore a little more. Let's look at this. Okay, if a person is sick person is pregnant and nursing, a person who is traveling. So these are the three things that in circumstances where a person is allowed to not fast and take the rukhsa, right? Take the easy route and not fast. So what is sickness? Let's see if we have any detail on that. So, no. Let's look at the sick part. So someone who is very sick, meaning that if a person fasts while he's sick, he or she will increase in the sickness. That's one thing. And number two,
what if you're a little sick?
if you're a little sick, that will also apply. If you're a little sick, but if you fast, you're going to get very sick, then you're allowed not to fast. You're allowed to take the break for that day. Okay? Or you are sick, but it won't increase, but there's a fear that later on you might have some other problems that may occur. So all of that will apply for sickness. Just feeling a little dizzy and headache, that's not sufficient, right? And number three, which is the strongest one, that if a health professional says that it is not good for you to fast, it is harmful for you to fast, in that case, you will definitely take that, because they would know better of whether your sickness, your illness will increase or not, it will be more harmful or not. But however, if someone does want to fast and wants to just be strong, and if a person gets very sick, fine. If he can continue fasting, continues, otherwise he can break the fast. And that will also be okay to do, and we will talk about that later. So a pregnant nursing woman, normally they struggle. So if they feel that is going to harm them or harm the child, whether nursing or a pregnant woman, they are allowed to take that rukhsa and not fast. And of course, a person who's traveling, even if he's traveling in business class, they're still allowed not to fast. Okay, that's one rukhsa that is the easiest one and the most. Wow, where did the coffee guy go to? Is it for me or he kept it for himself? He didn't say anything.
I think it's for you.
Okay.
Safe to say that it's for you.
Okay, maybe I'll take half of it. It's not a lot. I don't want it to get cold. All right, so what do we have next? Let's look at the next one. Okay. So what validates the salah? The fasting. What is going to validate? What is going to be invalidating your fasting if you miss out on some of these or one of them?
I'm sorry, I'm
So
asking
let's
too many
say-
questions, but just for my own clarification, intention. Do you need to?
I will come to that.
Oh, you do.
I'm going to come to
That's
that.
fine.
And actually, that's the first one. So let's go.
Perfect.
Let's go for it. So in Ramadan, one of the conditions is that you have to have intention, as we defined in the beginning, right? Although we said that in the end, but we're going to start with that because we start fasting with intention. So the intention has to be done in a way that you have to know what you're doing next. If, for example, in the night, you had your suhoor, preparation done, and you went to sleep, right? And then you woke up late after Fajr, after the break of dawn, when the time already started, your fasting will still be valid because you already thought about it. You didn't say that I'm going to fast, but just your preparation will also apply. The second example would be waking up and eating suhoor. Sometimes you forget to say, and most people don't. I most of the time don't say that I'm fasting today for the sake of Allah, the month of Ramadan, ila akhiri, right? Some people like to say the whole chart, right? It's fine. Say it say it verbally, but you don't have to. Just your knowing that what you're doing is sufficient, and that applies even for salah, for your prayer, for your zakah, right? You don't have to say, I'm giving this money for the sake of Allah from my zakat money of 2022, right? So just thinking and knowing what you're doing, that's good enough for an intention. Number two, to be free from anything that it is contrary to fasting, right? The things that we mentioned earlier. In those two situations, you will not be able to fast if those situations apply to you. And number three, to be free from all things that break the fast. What are the things that break the fast? Let's go to that slide. So there are two categories, should I say, that are identified as something that will break the fast. There are fasting breakers, not icebreakers, fasting breakers. So they will break the fast if any of those occur. One of them, the first category, is what is going to necessitate or obligate a makeup and then also an expiation. Expiation meaning a kafara. You have to do a lot more than just making up that day, right? And then all the rest, that's a very small category. And then all the rest will be of those that invalidate your prayer and necessitate or obligate just a makeup, not anything else, right? Okay, so who knows what's the word for a makeup, the Arabic word, or the word that is used in the fiqh terminology? What is it called? The makeup? Badal is, qada. So qada. So we have qada, which is just a simple makeup of whatever you missed out on. Okay. And then you have the expiation, which is, who knows the word in Arabic? What is those 2 months of fasting? What is it called? Kafara. Kafara, it means more than just a makeup. It's like you have to really work very, very hard to actually make up for what you have lost. So we will look at very simple, very straightforward, the things that break the fast and also necessitate an expiation, right? A makeup along with a kafara. So qada and kafara both. So it has to be a Ramadan fasting. Okay? By one's own free will, right? If someone forced you, shoved it down your throat, or you did it by mistake, then that will not apply. And the third will be without a valid reason. And a valid reason would be one of those that we mentioned before. A condition started that doesn't allow you to continue your fast for women, and for all, a person got sick, right? Any of those situations. So the mufattara, the things that break the fast, are three, as we looked at in the definition of fasting, which is food, drink, and sexual intercourse. Okay, these three things are the mufattarat, are the things that will break and nullify the fast if someone does it in a current Ramadan, does it with a free will and without a valid reason. Yes.
What is
is the relationship between a man and woman in private. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. And I think we covered some of those things in our coming of age class. And that's why I asked the 8th graders to come to this class. So there might be certain things that are exclusive for adults, but mashallah, you guys are emerging adults, right? From Islamic perspective, yes. So it has to be eating or drinking something that humans would normally eat or drink, right? So what would that mean? That anything that normally human beings do not eat or drink, and it's not meant for nourishment nor medication, and it does not benefit the body in any way, then that will not, it would break the fast, but it will not necessitate an expiation. So expiation, the kafara will only apply if those three conditions apply, that it was in Ramadan, it was the Ramadan fast, it was by the free will, and it was without a valid reason. Hence, it has to be of something that is for nourishment of the body or medication, or is to please the body in any way. So let's say if someone took a leaf and ate the leaf, normally my lambs eat leaves and grass. So someone eat a piece of grass willingly, intentionally in Ramadan, it would break the fast, but it would not necessitate kafara. So it has to be food or medication or something that nourishes the body. That doesn't apply. Someone took a stone or something else or whatever, right? But anything like water, food, drink, fruits, vegetables, any of those stuff. Smoking, yes, will break the fast. Yeah. But arguably, it would not necessitate a kafara. But it definitely would break the fast. Yes.
Well, it's on the do now.
It does not break the fast. Yes. We will go into some of the details of kind of itemizing a few things that normally happens and whether it breaks the fast or not. So we will go over some of those as well. So is this clear? It's kind of sometimes complicated, but I hope that it was clear. Yes.
And sometimes if the woman or whoever is cooking the iftar, so I mean, I just read it somewhere that it is okay to just taste the salt and it will be okay. So is it true?
That's also coming. Mashallah, no, it's good. Tasting something without swallowing, it is disliked. It will not break the fast. So the underlying definition, you could say, is that anything passes the GI and it goes down. So if it's just in your mouth, it does not break the fast, as long as you spit it out. But if you don't, then in trouble. Okay. So I will not go into the detail of the second one in the last line, the bottom last line, because there is more details to it, but just for the adults and for those who are married, it's the actual intercourse that will break the fast and also necessitate a kafara, okay? Other than that will not apply. However, it might break the fast, but it will not necessitate a kafara. Okay. Where's those two individuals, the two tech guys? Just if I can have them for a minute. Okay. What's the next slide? What is expiation? You feed 60 people, feed one person for 60 days. How much? The amount of sadaqat al-fitr. Okay. If we have time in the end, which I don't believe we will have enough time, sadaqat al-fitr for this year, in short, is $15 per person. And the kafara, or the feeding of, if there's an expiation, would be the same amount per person. So $15 per person, or you could do, what is 15 times 60? Yeah. 900? You sure? Or it's 1,050?
Was it 16 or 60?
60. 60. 900? Okay, 900. 900. So $900 would be the kafara for the expiation. Kind of like in our time that we're living right now in 2022. So before it was $10, so that was much. So that sadaqat al-fitr amount is the same also for fidya. Just, heads up. For someone who's not able to fast, who's sick, and again, someone who's sick, but a Muslim, he's sane, right? Does he have to, is he obligated to fast? Is he obligated to fast? Anyone?
It's not.
What's the question?
Someone who is sick, he's not traveling, right? He's sane and he's a Muslim. Is he obligated to fast?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. He's obligated. Is he obligated to fast that particular day?
No.
No, because he's sick on that day. Now, let's say this person never recovers, or the doctors say there is no point. Some people have certain illnesses, diabetes and those kind of things, where sometimes they're in a level where it's just no hope that later on they'll be able to fast. And I've known people that they just can't fast anymore. Otherwise, their blood sugar could just shoot up or go so low that they will die. It sometimes gets that serious. So in that case, that person gives what? Fidya per day. And the amount would be, again, the same sadaqat al-fitr amount. All right. There was a question from someone about the screen. I don't know if they can see it or not. Can you see the presentation on the screen? Do you have yours open? Anyone has it open?
I don't know.
Okay. Khalas. People online, can you see the screen? All right, perfect. If there's any questions online, also you can post them here. I will try to check them periodically, but just in case if I miss, I will come back inshallah towards the Q&A session. All right, so sadaqat al-fitr per person, 60 person or 60 days, whatever you want to choose from that category, you can do so. What are the things that only invalidate the fasting? Okay, so eating and drinking accidentally while remembering the fast. Anybody has a question about this first one? Because this becomes a little like, didn't you say it's okay if someone accidentally breaks the fast, if they eat and drink, right? Yes. It's okay. See, so it's kind of confusing. I agree, but just the wording. So I'm going to put those two wording side by side. Forgetfully, accidentally. So those two, in very specific terms, they differentiate from one another. But accidentally, sometimes it means also like didn't remember. It was an accident. Sorry, I didn't know. Right. Right? So we're going to differentiate between both of them. So one is forgetfulness and one is accidental. Okay? So those two are different. Someone who didn't remember fasting and he had a big meal. Does that break the fast? No. No. Because he didn't remember. It was a forgetfulness. But someone did remember fasting and went and was rinsing the mouth and accidentally gargled all and something went down the throat. Would that break the fast?
Yes.
Yes, it would. Because it's not forgetfulness, it's accidental, right? So anything that is accidental would break the fast, right? If it was not forgetfulness. Sometimes you would do it, not remembering you were fasting and you gargled and went down, it would not break the fast because it was with forgetfulness. If you know that you are fasting, so by accident, it will be that, okay, I need to rinse my mouth because I'm making wudu and I know I'm fasting, but I just went too hard, right? Or putting water in the nose, it went too hard, it went down, break the fast. Are you sinful for that? No, because it's accident. And that's why the hadith indicates to those two. The Prophet ﷺ said that رُفِعَ عَنْ أُمَّتِي الْخَطَأُ وَالنِّسْيَانُ. Okay? Can you guys remember this hadith? رُفِعَ عَنْ أُمَّتِي الْخَطَأُ وَالنِّسْيَانُ. That Allah has lifted the burden from my ummah of forgetfulness and mistake. Right? Eating or drinking because one thought Maghrib entered out. A lot of times it happens. Oh, it's time for iftar, and they were looking at the wrong last year's calendar, right? or whatever, for whatever reason, if a person breaks the fast before sunset, thinking that is already sunset, then it would break the fast. Would it necessitate a kafara? No. Yes.
So my question was about the kafara itself, category 1. So there were 2 choices, right? Either to go with the 60 consecutive fasts or to be 4 days. Is there a choice or does it have to be?
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. I kind of missed out on the first part of the kafara itself. So the kafara itself, it is required to fast 60 days. If you are not able to, however, then you would do kafara. Then is kafara. It's not a multiple choice.
The
It's
third option would be to fast.
you have to fast 60 days because you have to feel it, right?
Yes.
Giving food to people
So
who
I
will
would say
find.
as an option, right? You have to fast 60 days.
Yes.
If you can, for whatever reasons, then
Then yeah.
it's not like by choice, right?
Yes. It's not a choice thing. It's like if one does not work for you, then you go to the second. Yes.
Alright, does that count for each fast that you broke intentionally?
Yeah, only for the ones that we talked about in the first category that you did it intentionally, knowingly, it was not forgetfulness, it was a Ramadan, all those conditions that apply. Then for each day that for one day you will make up that day, qada, and then you will do a kafara of 60 days.
So if someone broke the fast intentionally 3 days, they would have to do the fast 3 times?
Yeah. If it was according to the Hanafi school, if it was within one Ramadan, then there's only one kafara for those 3 days. But if it was 3 days, let's say one day this Ramadan and then was previous Ramadans, then yeah, separate kafaras. But if it was within one Ramadan, then you do only one kafara for those 3 days. Where we are on the second one. So now the third one, again, if you go to suhoor, if someone ate suhoor and thought that, there's still 10 minutes left and kept on eating, then what is it? Would that fasting count or not? Or not? Does he have to make it up? Yes, but no expiation. Although he did it on purpose, although it was not forgetfulness, but this is some kind of exception because there is a sense of accident there. That accidentally thought there were 10 minutes remaining.
Fasting?
What's that?
Does he continue fasting?
Yes. That's a very good question, actually. If for any reason, this would apply to any situation. If for any reason you are in the month of Ramadan, you are obligated to fast, but for certain conditions, like traveling, illness, periods, and so on and so forth. For those reasons, you were not fasting, but that reason ended during the day, then you are obligated to continue just abstaining from food and drink and everything. So you kind of like fast the rest of the time. It will be disliked. In the Hanafi school is makruh, close to haram, to eat and drink if all those reasons are not there anymore, if those conditions are not applicable to you anymore. But anyhow, if someone still wants to eat and drink, there's no makeup for it because that day is already gone anyway. Yes.
It's a situation that happened to me. I'm not sure what you do. This one, so I have to fast one day. Traveling over to the east, say India, Pakistan, in the middle of the Ramadan, obviously they are ahead of you. You lose a day, and then you start fasting with them, and then celebrate and eat wherever it happens on that day. Say, by counting, you only come up with 28 days opposed to 29. What do you do in that case?
That's very interesting. So, if you are going to another country where their calendar is different than your origin, where you started fasting, whether it's a day more or day less, you will celebrate Eid according to where you are.
So we got this.
Okay, so that's one thing. The second, if it was less than 29 days, then you have to make up one more day.
Okay. So I may have to do one.
But wait for the best part.
Okay.
If it was more than 30 days, you're gonna still have to fast one more day.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You do, okay.
Because you cannot not fast and do your Eid by yourself.
Yes.
And it's still Ramadan where you are at the moment.
Yeah.
So therefore you are required,
So that will apply
The-
coming back here.
because we talked about being in Ramadan is one of the things that obligate fasting. So you're still in Ramadan where you are. So that's why you're obligated to fast that day. So that condition actually applies every single day. It's not just the first day of Ramadan. However, there is no fasting of 28 days.
No.
And that's why that would be the exception, that if it was one day less for, it was only 28 days for you, then you make up that one day. Yeah, because the Prophet ﷺ said that the month is either 29 or 30.
Right.
So that's why the scholars say that anything less than 29 will not be accepted
And it's
automatically.
after many, many years, I just.
Yeah, you can
made
make
a
it up.
correction,
You can
I
still
can
make
do
it.
that.
You can still make it up anytime. Yeah. Okay. But that was a very interesting question. Eat or drinking forgetfully, and thereafter thinking that the fast was broken. So we all know that if you forgetfully start eating and drinking, it does not break the fast unless it was an accident. Okay. But someone didn't know this. He didn't attend the class, so he didn't know. Started eating and drinking because, oh, okay, it's already over. And that person should have stopped eating because it is Ramadan. However, the fast is maybe broken, but you still have to continue fasting. Obviously didn't know that as well. So kept on eating. In that case, there's only qada and no kafara for it. Okay. Look at more. Swallowing that is between the teeth, and the condition that is the size of a chickpea or bigger. So sometimes things are stuck in your tooth, right? Meat or whatever, bean, anything that you ate that is stuck there. If you swallow it, if it's very small, it does not break the fast. Or maybe should I put it in 3 categories? So 3. Number 1 is that it was smaller than a chickpea and it was already in your mouth when you start your fasting and then you swallow it. Number 2, it is big like a chickpea or bigger, and that was already in your mouth when you started fasting. Number 3 would be any of the previous 2, but it went in your mouth after you started fasting. Okay? Yes.
So going back to the previous slide, it's like you said in terms, like if you're fasting like less than 29 days, it won't be accepted. But like, what about like the one that has like 28 days, like February, and like?
We don't go according to the solar calendar. We go according to the lunar calendar. Yeah, so it's gonna be Ramadan when we see the moon, and then we see the moon for the next month. That's Shawwal. So it's according to the lunar system, and that's either 30 or 29. Yeah. So, okay. So, is everybody with me on these 3? So, in the first situation, it would break, and the third one as well. Sorry, the second and third will break. The first one will not. Does that make sense? The first one will not break the fast. However, the second and third will break the fast. The first one is, it's smaller than a chickpea and it was already in your mouth when you started fasting. And then you swallow it, it does not break the fast. Chickpea or bigger breaks the fast, regardless whether it was in your mouth before or after. And that would be the third one, right? So the third one will be anything that you put into your mouth. It doesn't, regardless of the size, it will break the fast. Okay, is that clear? I can go one more time if we're good. Okay. So, okay. Swallowing water accidentally while gargling, we already talked about that. Swallowing blood. Now that's already inside the mouth. However, it was not part of them. It was not something that was put in your mouth, right? So blood, swallowing blood, any amount will break the fast. Now, how much, is there like a limitation for that? Sometimes it's just so little that you can't even differentiate the color when you spit it out. right? Would that count? No. Like even the scholars have gone to kind of define that by saying that if you spit out, when you spit out the saliva, if it's like you can see like blood is like kind of like reddish, quite reddish, then it will break the fast if you swallowed that. But if it was very light, it would not break the fast. So it's about qalil and kathir, right? A lot, a little. If it was very little, then it doesn't break the fast. If it was a lot, then it break the fast. What is it that, how do you define little and lot? By looking at the color. Okay. So swallowing toothpaste. This question comes up a lot especially for people who work in a kind of closed environment where you have to be in a conversation with people. Is toothpaste allowed during fasting? The general or the straightforward answer, yes. However, if it's not needed, then it's disliked. And according to the Shafi'i school, it's also very disliked to even use miswak, even to brush your teeth, because the hadith, that the smell of the fasting person is more beloved to Allah than musk, right? So the Hanafis, however, say that it indicates to empty stomach, right? But however, that's the scholarly, differentiation of how they approach the hadith. However, if someone is in a situation where they have to have that, then you can brush, but make sure it doesn't go down. But if it goes down, if you swallow the toothpaste, it would break the fast, correct? Because it's something that came from external and it went down your GI and it went down to your stomach. So it breaks the fast. Now, tell me if this is going to require a kafara or not. Is that going to require you to do a kafara or not? Because you ate something. Why? Why not? He said no. Why would it not necessitate a kafara and expiation? I mean, it could be with intention as well. What if someone did actually swallow? Exactly. So that will be the bottom line. Whether intentional or non-intentional, if you just say that toothpaste, if someone swallows toothpaste, why would not necessitate a kafara, although it will break the fast? It's because it's not something you eat for nourishment or medication. Good one. Okay. What else? Swallowing vomit. However, it does happen. Does it happen? Yes, it does. Sometimes you feel it, and then you kind of automatically goes down. You don't swallow it purposely. So if that happens, it does not break the fast. Does not. Okay. But however, if someone deliberately, I'm going to elaborate a little more on that. Vomiting itself, someone who's vomiting would not break the fast. That's the general rule. If someone vomits, it does not break the fast.
But that's a common.
Let me go through the different categories of it. Vomiting does not break the fast. However, if it's mouthful, it will break the wudu.
Break what?
The wudu.
Wudu.
According to the Hanafi school, it breaks the wudu. No amount will break the fast,
I see.
but the condition is that it has to be on its own. You don't intentionally do it. But if someone actually wants to vomit, sticks their finger in the mouth and then vomits, if it's a mouthful, then it breaks the fast too. Of course, it's going to break the wudu because that's unconditional. And this one, if it's done purposely, it will break the fast. However, if it's very little, it does not break the fast. So if someone vomits, sick to stomach, and they vomit, everything comes out, they're fine. They're fine. As long as they don't swallow a good amount of it. However, if someone just swallows a little bit that just came up and it was unavoidable and it goes back down, also fine. It does not break the fast. So that's a little bit about that. These are the things that happen. Some of it might not happen that often, but it does happen, especially if you had a heavy suhoor and you ran a mile in school, right? Or you do some excessive movement, it might make you feel like vomiting. Yes.
What about swimming?
Swimming?
During the fast?
No, you should not swim.
No?
You should not swim during fasting. Because it's very hard to avoid water going down your throat. Unless if it's like a pool that is only 4 feet, because I do swim, I have experience. If it's, just 4 or 5 feet where you're not gonna, submerge yourself in the water, then it's,
Just 4 feet and.
yeah, if you're just gonna kind of walk in the water, but
Breathe through.
yeah, you should avoid swimming. Unless if you're an expert, you can make sure that it's not gonna go down. If it goes down, you're gonna lose your fast. So what, is it worth it? Maybe not. So however, if someone goes swimming and does swallow water by mistake, because of that, of course, that's going to be accidental. Accidental is gonna break the fast or not? Yes or no?
But
They
you're
will.
actually knowingly applying that condition where accidents could happen.
Yeah, but
So how does that?
but the action itself is not intentional. Yeah, so that's why I said you should not, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where there could be that accident. There's a chance for that accident. So okay. Smoke that enters through the throat by one's doing will break the fast. We already talked about that. So vaping, any of those kind of things will break the fast. Anything that has an element of smoke and steam, both will apply. So taking hot steam during fasting will also break the fast. Should avoid that as well.
So you need to be careful while you take a shower also.
Yeah.
CPAP machines.
Yeah, but sometimes some things are unavoidable. Taking a shower, hot shower, or sitting in a hot tub, right? There's some sort of steam that comes out. It's unavoidable, so that's fine.
That's fine.
You're walking in the street and someone's, smoking and puts the whole thing on your face. If you inhale some of that, it won't break the fast. So those situations that are unavoidable, then will be fine.
Oxygen machines and CPAP machines.
Yeah, that would break the fast.
That would break the
Yeah. Because it has some form of liquid and what do you call it? Some kind of liquid that it does kind of evaporate eventually,
Evaporating.
but yeah, it will break the fast.
But oxygen.
Um, yes, it will break the fast if it's necessary. Yeah. If a person has to take it, then that person is excused anyway. Otherwise, yeah, it will break the fast. I want to quickly get through this. So eating or drinking. So we already talked about some of these things. Just a very quick one. Does smoke that is unavoidable. It would not break the fast. So we already talked about that. So there are more examples like mosquito fly or any insect kind of goes down your throat. Did it ever happen to someone? Like something went down your throat accidentally, like a mosquito or an ant or some small little something, right? It did. Ibrahim, yes.
What happens if you take
Say that one more time.
One more time.
what happens if you take a bath of water while you're consuming?
If you're taking a shower and some of the water goes in your mouth, then you should spit it out. But if you do swallow it, then it's going to break the fast. Okay. So eating and drinking something forgetfully, we already talked about that. It's forgetfully. It's not accidentally. Yes.
So, like, all that kind of things, but like, if you're kind of so by accident or not in tablet, you should avoid it. But like, if you're like inside, like I said, doing something that makes very for class, and then that doesn't kind of have a fire on the stove.
Very good. So you should avoid getting into contact of it directly, like where the smoke is or whatever it is. You should kind of try to be a little on a distance, but if anything else goes in, it's fine. If you inhale anything else, that's fine. You should not be directly inhaling the smoke or whatever that is, even if it's a bonfire, right? Just a lot of smoke, right? Burning incense and bakhur, right? So you can burn it, but you cannot have it right next to you and you're kind of inhaling it. So that will break the fast.
Wudu water. Madmada.
Yeah. We're looking at all that.
Oh.
Eating between the teeth, well, I talked about that. Less than a chickpea, there it is. Right, tasting flavorful stuff. Who is the salt? Okay, there you go. Tasting something, it would not break the fast, but it would be just like if it's unnecessary. Chewing on a sesame seed, it's very small, right? So something very, very little that would not count, right? Death smoke, we already talked about that. Swallowing, the wetness that remains after washing one's mouth. This thing kind of, a lot of people ask the question. After make madmada, after you rinse your mouth, there's still some wetness in your mouth, right? Would that be okay to swallow? Yes. And it would not break the fast. What's it?
According to Shafi'i also.
I don't recall. I don't know. I would assume that it would not, because a lot of these things are very common. Swallowing the wetness of, okay, what are we? Swallowing 1 or 2 drops of sweat or tears that enter the mouth and mix with one's saliva. That's totally fine. What are the other things that do not break the fast? Swallowing one's own saliva, swallowing one's own phlegm, right? That's also fine. It would not break the fast. Swallowing vomit, right? Well, we talked about that part, that is mouthful, is less than a mouthful, and accidentally you kind of swallow it. Using a miswak or toothbrush, right? We touched a little bit on that. Wetting one's lip with one's saliva. Your question is answered right over here. Wetting one's lip with their own saliva. Like doing right? It's fine in while fasting. And last but not least, but very, very important, is backbiting will not break the fast. However, is it okay, somewhat okay, not good, not too good, or bad? It's bad. Terrible. For the least.
Doing what to relieve yourself from some of the thirst that you may be feeling, not swallowing the water, but intention is to try to calm you down a little. Would that break the fast? I understand the question.
Yeah, what was the first part? I'm not.
The question is, I am a bit thirsty. I'm just gonna perform a wudu so that the water could turn.
It's fine.
It's fine.
If for wudu purpose, but it would be just like to just go and.
But the intention is something else.
Fine. He can make multiple intentions.
Okay.
All right. Some of the other things that do not break the fast. Did we do all of that? Water. Okay. Applying kuhl to the eyes. Surma. Kuhl. Anything that you put in your eye, it does not break the fast. However, if you put any medication in your nose, it will break the fast. The ears, the eyes will not break the fast. Some of the scholars, they have mentioned that any medication that you put in your ear, it somehow does connect you to the throat and it goes down to your GI. But from now we know that they are not really connected. The nose and the mouth are very close and connected. If you put anything in the ear, it would not go down the throat. Likewise, if you put something in the eyes, it does not connect it to the GI and it will not go down. So therefore, that will also not break the fast. However, someone told me that some type of surma, you put it on, you can actually taste it. So that's very interesting. That's very interesting. However, it does not break the fast. Any eye drops you put, it does not break the fast. Anything you put in your eye does not break the fast. That's the consensus of the scholars. Yes.
So it drops down into your throat, or do it, you taste it?
Yeah, and sometimes something you put in your eye, sometimes you can taste it. It's very interesting.
Yes, so that's not connected to sinuses, and sinuses, it drops into your
throat. Subhanallah. But because there's an ijma on that part, so that's why it's undisputable. Anyway, the ear, anything into the ears, Would not break the fast. Okay. We already did all that. What's next? The body in general, rubbing oil or cream on the body or hair would not break the fast. Applying deodorant, perfume, performing a bath, or you know, your wudu part,
Yes.
fine. Withdrawing blood, right? If there's a blood test, you have blood works, or you need to withdraw blood for what is it called, the for transfusion. Fine.
Donating blood is okay?
Huh?
Is donating blood is fine
Yes.
too?
Yes. One time I donated blood in Ramadan. It was a kind of emergency situation. It was not a good
Not
experience.
good, yeah.
It was tough. I almost, because I had some other activity later in the day, and I was like, I was about to faint. So blood cupping, all of that, flu shots, insulin, and IVs, we talked about that. That would be permissible. If someone needs any shots during fasting, it's okay, because it's not going down the GI. That's the main thing. The mind intending to break the fast
Clarifying with IV.
and thinking about eating burgers would not break the fast. You have to actually eat it. So that's the last one, the mind. Yes.
The IV, I'm still not very clear in terms of the intention. I think intention do matter, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. Yes.
Say if I'm fasting and I'm taking an IV with the intention to nourish my body rather than the required medication
Mhm.
or necessity for taking IV, if those are the intentions that does not match with your intention of fasting, what happens in that case?
In either case, it would not break the fast.
Okay,
In either case, it does not break the fast.
yeah.
Is it, what is this like? What will be okay? That's a different
It
discussion.
is, okay.
Yeah. So, let's do a little kind of, what are the things to do in Ramadan? Let's be done with all the rulings and stuff like that. So let's maximize the reward of Ramadan. MashaAllah, we had a nice day of everybody coming together and celebrating the coming of Ramadan, the istiqbal of Ramadan, the welcoming Ramadan. That's not enough, right? Now, when Ramadan actually starts, there is going to be a lot of work. So you have to maximize the reward, because everything is multiplying by so many times. And it's like, you know, sometimes they have these windows for sale, 80% off. So you have to go to in those dates, otherwise you'll miss out. Otherwise you're gonna have to pay full price. So here it's 70 times more of the reward of every obligatory actions, and every other action is equivalent to a fard. So maximize the reward of whatever you're planning to do. And of course, for our youngsters, mashallah, I'm really happy that you attended this class. Make sure you don't miss salat, particularly in Ramadan. Okay? In Ramadan, make sure you pray all of your 5 salats. Okay? Yes. That's what I'm hinting at. Like, even if you're in school, but here's the good news. You can pray Dhuhr no matter what time you come back home from school. Why? Who can tell me why? One of you guys tell me why. Yes. There you go. Asr time enters now. I'll tell you exactly what time it enters today. Today it enters at 5:15. So, and Fajr, of course, you're going to pray before going. Yes.
Like follow-up question, if we're given after school activity, I have after school.
Okay, after school activity, then you should ask for a place to pray and make sure you pray. Yeah. So salat, prayer, is one of those things that there's a very slim chance for someone to say that, okay, he or she is okay not to pray. Salat is only the act of worship that it is always required to pray. If you are sick, you have to pray. Even you have to sit down and pray. Even you have to lay down and pray. So school, of course, you know, it's still going to be obligated. You're going to be obligated to pray. So especially in Ramadan, we don't want to do anything that is impermissible. I see Muhammad, do you have your hand raised? You can go ahead and ask the question, or you can type it there, inshallah. In Ramadan in particular, you have to make sure that you don't do anything that will cause you a sin. Like the biggest sin is to not pray, right? So you don't want to do that. So make sure that you, and then how long it takes to pray Dhuhr? 5 minutes, 4 minutes? Some people can pray in 3 minutes. So you just need to ask and you can get a place to pray. I know it's very difficult, but did we talk about jihad in the beginning? So you can become a jihadist, the real jihad. But you don't want to be an extremist, but you want to be an extreme Muslim. Get it? Get the difference? You don't want to be an extremist, but you want to be an extreme Muslim. That's required from all of us, right? To do whatever you do it at the best of situation. Yes, Muhammad. I can see only Muhammad. You have your hand raised. All right. Where's our tech guys? Okay. All right. So pray your salat on time. Refrain from sin. Of course, you know, anything that has to do that with your limbs to do what you're not supposed to do, you should not do. And of course, social media. Now that screen time, it's going to be the most difficult one, I guess. Why? Because Ramadan, mashallah, it's still in the winter, kind of, right? It's still not really spring, April. So screen time, movies, games, any screen related things, you know, phone, computer, TV, television, whatever you're using. Try to limit that if you cannot eliminate that for 1 month, right? I know some of us can do that, and I've heard some families, they actually eliminate any screen during Ramadan. It is only, except if it's for homework, right? Only homework, not homework, right? If it's actually homework, yeah, of course. After that, no screen. You can sleep as much as you want, and when you're not fasting, you eat as much as you can or you want, but you want to stay away from that, because that's something that is going to protect you and uplift your spiritual and mental stability, inshallah. So we will try to focus on the social media part. Try to stay away from social media, screen time in general, right? Screen time. Try to, if you do 4 hours a day, reduce that to 2 hours. If you cannot eliminate it, you know, for the whole month. If it's 2 hours, go for 1 hour. Go for half hour. Put a timer on it, right? Social media time begins now. 3, 2, 1, go. Is that doable? Doable? Inshallah. And then what do you do with that extra time that you have now? Yeah. You just do Quran? Okay, you do Quran. MashaAllah. And you can pray, you make dua, you can help someone, right? And you'll be rewarded for all of that. So that's how you maximize. I'm going to take a little break here, I guess, because I think it's almost time for Salah. If anybody wants to read this quickly for me, I need some water. Who has a good voice, who can read loud, who wants to read this for me? Ali, mashallah, read really good. And then we'll go on to the Q&A. Okay.
It is unlawful or recommended to avoid slander, lies, and foul language, which are always unlawful. But even worse than fasting. The pleasures of senses. For example, those that do not break the fast, such as selling fragrant and smoking, gratification therein, which is incompatible with the wisdom of the fast, even though they're permissible but not fasting. And when it is recommended not to use perfume during the fasting, it is not meant to be used the night before. Three, and medical blood or donated or cupping as these like the fast, we can consider this debilitating. Or if someone abuses one while fasting, one should say to him, I am fasting.
Yeah, if someone wants to fight with you while you're fasting, you just say, I'm fasting. Not that, hey, you know what? I'm fasting. Yeah, better watch out. I'm fasting. You know, my mind is just gonna explode any moment. You know, not in that sense, right? Or not boasting that, hey, you know what? Now I'm fasting. No, I am fasting from not just food and drink. I'm fasting from fighting with anyone, from wasting time, or just getting in that argument. I'm fasting from all of those things, right? Inni idan lasaimun. The Prophet ﷺ said that if someone argues with you, starts to pick a fight with you while you're fasting, then you should say, I'm fasting. I'm fasting from fighting with anyone. I'm fasting from wasting my time. Meet me after Eid. Okay, there's a question here online that in case of emergency, can one take inhaler for asthma and for those things? Yes. Short answer is yes. Would it break the fast? Yes. Again. Any other questions?
So what time do you need to stop eating?
That's a very interesting question. What time you should stop eating? It is best to give a few minutes, just in case, the chart was a little off or something like that, just to kind of feel, at ease and comfort, and that you're certain that it's my fasting is on a good start. Because sometimes people feel doubtful. Oh, I did the last minute. I don't know, maybe I swallowed something extra after the time entered. So it's always best to give a few minutes before suhoor time. And for iftar, same thing. 1 or 2 minutes for iftar is good. But for too long, like not breaking the fast and waiting until after salat, that will be disliked. Same thing for suhoor. The sunnah is to do in the last third. So the last hour, the last 2 hours would be fine as well.
That's a question. That's a question.
Okay. Let me go to this one first. Just hold on a second. Which is more important, praying Taraweeh or helping my mother in her shop? That's a good question. Bring your mother for Taraweeh. Taraweeh, it is a sunnah. According to some is mu'akkada, but it's not a fard, meaning that it's not an obligation. However, try to do both. Help Imam until you can pray your Taraweeh on your own if you're certain that you can pray Taraweeh later on, and then help your mother at that time. But if you know that is just not going to happen, then you should do your Taraweeh later on if you're going to help Imam. If you're going to help Imam during the Taraweeh time or right after Isha, then you will pray your Taraweeh later on, inshallah. Yes. Now it's going to get really loud here. I don't have a mic.
So for women, is it better for them to pray at home, or is it recommended to come to the masjid for Tarawih? So the multiple reward that anything in Ramadan, because women need to come to mosque or which one will they maximize their emphasis?
According to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is that a woman would get the reward of the male praying in masjid if they pray at home. So it really doesn't make a difference whether you pray at home. And according to another hadith, it's actually recommended for women to pray at home. However, the situation that we're, the environment that we live in at this given time, that a lot of people feel that they will not be able to pray or they not be able to listen to the Quran, the whole Quran and Taraweeh. For that purposes, you can go. And it's thabit, it is also established that the Sahabiyat, the women in time of the Prophet ﷺ, they will go to masjid and pray. And until this day, women go and pray in the masjid. So you have both options. Yeah, the sunnah mu'akkada, the emphasis for come to pray in jama'ah, it is for men. It will not apply to women. That's a very good question. There was a question that what about a person who accidentally puts water in their mouth with the intention to drink, but remembers that they are fasting and spits it out, not technically drinking water. So yeah, if the water goes down the throat and a person purposely did it, it was not an accident, and a person did remember fasting. If it goes down the throat because it was done in those two conditions, it would break the fast. Hence, the person will have to do a kafara. But if it didn't go down the throat, then it would not break the fast and it would not necessitate a kafara. Question regarding toothpaste and mouthwash. Does using but not swallowing them mean that the fast is still valid? Yes. If the toothpaste did not go down the throat, then it's still valid. Which is more important? Praying Tarawih, already did that. In case, okay, we already did that. All right. So, any other questions from the audience right now? I'll come to you after those who are here in the class. Anyone here in the class have any question before I get to the newcomers? All right. I saw his hand first. I'll take you first.
When you have to wash your mouth.
When you have to wash your mouth, you wash your mouth. You got to do what you got to do. But you don't swallow the water. If you do swallow, it will break the fast. Okay? Yeah. Yes, your question. Yes, you had your hand. You have a question or a comment or what? What's that? Sorry, I'm not understanding your question. What happened to what? What are some du'as? These are talking about the supplications, the du'as that you make when you start the fast or you break the fast and so on and so forth. So when you break the fast, Allahumma laka sumtu wa bika amantu wa alayka tawakkaltu wa ala rizqika aftartu wa sawma ghadid min shahri Ramadan nawaitu faghfir li ma qaddamtu wa ma akhartu. This is a dua that you can say. You don't have to. If someone does not say this dua, your iftar is also good. But why do we have this dua in any case? Why even mention this dua anyway? To thank Allah, yes. Also, it reminds you that what a blessing of Allah that I'm breaking my fast. And also you're making the intention for the next day. Because you're saying, oh Allah, I intend to, I intend the fasting of tomorrow for the month of Ramadan. So at the time of iftar, you're making the intention for the next day. So that will also count. So let's say you did not even think about fasting the next day. From the time of iftar, after that, until the next day, you're still good to go because you already intended that after your iftar. Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartu. This is the dua that is mentioned in the hadith. Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartu. This is the shortest dua for iftar. Some scholars say that you should say that after you have the dates, and some say that you can do it before. It doesn't matter. You do it before, after, as long as you say it at the time of iftar, you're good to go. There's nothing that will necessitate reading these du'as, and it'll be okay if you don't say any of the du'as. So it's just recommended. I'm not saying because just recommended that you should leave it, but it's from a legal perspective, it's not obligated to say these du'as. It's like your fast will be still valid if you do not say these du'as. So, because was this dua mentioned in the definition? Was it? No. So it's not part of the fast. All right. Any other questions? All good? Either everybody's good or everybody's like really tired, and can we just finish? Can we go home? Okay, we're gonna call the adhan of dhuhr inshallah. The time is already in. For anyone who needs to go make wudu, you can make wudu. And for those who are here, can we all be really quiet and hear the adhan and answer to the call of Allah, to the prayer, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Allahu Akbar.